You are just in time for the Legion's first strike on Dalaran. These prisoners will paint the city streets red with blood. It's a shame you won't be alive to see it happen.
Something first.
I've been talking this entire time without anything on, so let me fix that.
Did he tell you that?
Yeah. My bad. I was actually not trying to use that. Output, audio. Nope. Thank you for letting me know. I've been talking this entire time. So, I get to start over. So I'm actually going to cut the stream and start over again. So hang tight for a second. Okay, so welcome back. I've been recording for about 7 or 8 minutes. 7 minutes. And my microphone was not on. So hopefully this kind of reset the stream a little bit. As I'm pretty much saturating the market here. So let me move this over here, move that over. Is that what I want? Yes. Okay, so I'm still playing in the background here, but what I wanted to actually really focus the stream on is the fact that the Xbox One X was announced, and I think it brings us back to where we were with the original Xbox, which is where, you know, the Xbox was pretty much as powerful as some of the gaming PCs, especially in the higher end. And then a year or two later, it really fell behind. The Xbox 360 wasn't that powerful. The Xbox One wasn't that powerful in the grand scheme of things. Now, what's interesting here is if you actually take a look at, I'll show you guys over here. This is the GPU right here, and this is the RX 580 spec. So what's interesting about that is we got 12 gigs of GDDR5 memory, and from what the sources have told me thus far is the GPU is going to get pretty much somewhere in the ballpark of about 8. and the system's going to get about 4, because unlike running Windows, there's not a lot of background stuff that's going to get up a lot of system memory. So that's kind of, I don't want to say confirmed, but relatively as close as you can get. But what's interesting is when you look at stuff like the compute units, when you look at things such as the actual raw throughput, so you're looking at around 6 teraflops of actual raw performance that this GPU in the Xbox One X is going to actually offer, and 40 compute units with over a 1 gigahertz engine clock. When you compare that to like I said, the RX 580, it's virtually, in my opinion, like the same card. I mean, you're basically gaining actually 4 compute units, which is interesting. Oh, sweet. That'll be nice. You're getting 4 compute units, which is definitely nice. You're getting a little bit more. Oh, sorry, 4 compute units. A little bit less on the actual raw throughput, and the core clock's a tad less, not much. So you're getting a fair bit of, performance for $500. So, also, I just want to verify that you can hear me, by the way, Tom. Actually, just asked that question. Wow. That made my eye level jump up pretty high. So, basically, for $500, you are getting a console with a $230 graphics card. Actually, a lot more, given that Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum's Dash, Zash, Zcash, whatever. Obviously, with everything that's going on there, if you guys see my earlier videos. But it's interesting because they're touting 4K gaming, and the PC Master Race, and trust me, I'm part of it. I'm all about advancements and building your own computer and everything like that. But let's be honest, can an RX 580 take most games out there, run 4K 30 to 60 frames per second on medium settings? The answer to that is yes, it can. So to think that this console couldn't do that, when you look at stuff like the Xbox One, for example, and okay, cool. When you look at the Xbox One, for example, it's running literally, I kid you not, 720 to 1080p on pretty much the lowest settings possible, just to get 30 FPS in a lot of the more demanding games. But you're also using a GPU that has 1.3 teraflops of power. To give you an idea, GTX 1050 teraflops. So let's see how much power that has. So, really? Actually, don't know that answer. I'm gonna look it up real quick. Okay, I actually have to look it up. But I would go to say that it would actually have a fair bit less power than even an entry-level $100 graphics card. If I remember correctly, it's definitely 2 to 3 times more powerful. So, you're basically going to get a really, really good gaming PC for next to nothing. So $500, I challenge anybody, and I'm going to try to do it too. When the Xbox One X comes out, you best believe I'm going to get all the sales I can and build a $500 gaming ring and see if I can do better. And I'm talking about the cheapest case freaking possible. I'm talking about, getting a power supply on super sale. And I honestly don't foresee myself being able to beat that price. So it's going to be interesting. I wonder if there's going to be enough advancements over the next year or so to make consoles obsolete again, because we've always said these consoles can't do 4K, they can't do this. Well, the Xbox One X should be able to do 4K. It's not going to do max settings. Some games will still be limited to 30 FPS, but it's definitely a huge improvement over what we've seen over the last couple of years. So I'm curious what your guys' thoughts is to basically have a $500 console with an RX 580 in it. I was helping Kemalar. I was helping out yesterday, bud, and you're spending, and I mean, I know the exchange isn't as good over where you're at, but you're essentially spending, from what I saw, like $1,500 or 1,500 euros, and you're getting an RX, an RX 580. I would almost go to say that, should you buy an Xbox One X? I mean, even if it's going to be, 600 or 700 euros. Obviously, I'm going to say not. I mean, I'm all about, PCs and customization and not supporting the loss leaders. That's Microsoft and Sony, where they sell things at cost or at a loss that make money up on the back end. I mean, that's not really something I necessarily say, hey, this is definitely something I support. But let me see what my DPS was from the first boss. 235. Not too bad. This should actually be a fair bit higher. So I'm curious what your guys' thoughts about all this. So it's going to have a 240 watt internal power supply, it says. I actually almost feel like that's wrong, but that doesn't surprise me, because if you undervolt an RX 580 a little bit, you can get that power like output down to like 110 watts. Mine only ran like 150. That's as I cranked it up as high as it could go. So I would go to say that a lot of it's probably running like the CPU and stuff like that. I'm really curious. True, very true. So yeah, definitely no doubt. If you include extras, it'd still be a little bit more expensive. Definitely a good point there. I should probably be paying attention to what I'm doing here. But where was I going with this? Babe, where was I going with this? You're not paying attention? What do I hire you for then? Oh, okay. That's right, I haven't paid you yet. Anyway. So, power supply, yeah. So, I'm really curious to see like how powerful the actual GPU really is. So that's going to be interesting. Or CPU rather, not GPU. Obviously, we know what the GPU is. It's an RX 480 or 580. I mean, let's see if he needs that. If you don't need. Should probably be. Never mind, I think he needs. We'll see. Did they up like the drop quality in here, I presume? Because like I feel like I always got like 830 blues whenever I did heroics. Out of curiosity, to see my ugly mug make this video any better or worse, because I can easily turn that off. No comments from the peanut gallery over there. My ass. I should turn so they can see you. Okay, so the question that was just asked is, so I'm coming from a 2500K overclocked to 4.2 gigahertz. If I get a Ryzen 1700 OC to 3.94, would I be looking at the same kind of performance in WoW? Yeah, I would say probably not, because the single-threaded performance is honestly only between like 6 to 8% behind KB Lake. And, it's KB Lake's probably 30 to 40% ahead of Sandy Bridge at least. So, I would go to say I would expect a little bit of a performance gain. The problem is that WoW is a really bad game to invest in the performance. What I mean by that is you're definitely, you could do it on a budget. You can get yourself like a G4560 with like an RX 580 if you can grab one at a decent price, and that would be the best value bar none. So some of the advantages you're going to get is you're going to get way better multi-threaded. So like right now, for example, I'm running level 7 settings because I have a 1080. I'm 1440p, 144 hertz. OBS live stream to you guys right now. I have multiple tabs open, for example. So that's some of the things where like even your 2500K would struggle to do what I'm doing right now. And if you do anything like me, like doing like Adobe Premiere or anything like that, you're gonna get a lot of performance from that. So the basic kind of summing up, I would expect a little bit better performance, and I think you get a lot of pros over upgrading to something like this versus how much you would spend on other things that are available to you at this time. I'm running on a Ryzen 5. Technically, I'm going to switch out my fiance's at some point, but yes, I am. So somebody want to explain to me. So she has a Ryzen 7 1700. I have a Ryzen 5 1600. She has 32 gigabytes of system memory. I have 16. All she does is play Grand Theft Auto 5 and a slew of other games, and I'm the one that does all the video editing and heavy multitasking. Why does she have the better computer? That's what she thinks. Oops. Yeah, I mean, you're definitely being held back by the 2500K, especially in some of these newer games that really can benefit from having multiple cores. I would say definitely would be a good choice to go with the Ryzen setup. I have a lot of trouble recommending, you know, an i5 because when you look at it, you know, even though I'm currently at 3.8. I'm probably going to run the 3.9 here in the near future. So I think I need 1.38 volts to run 3.9, but I'm not 100% sure. But that's probably where I'm going to keep it at, because 4 gigahertz is the voltage was too high for my liking. So why am I dying? Anyway, yeah, so 1.45 volts is a little bit high for my liking. My chip's not particularly that good at overclocking, which I'm okay with, because, you know, 200 megahertz is not going to make or break the difference, so. Yeah, so what I was going on is, you know, when I look at it from a logistics standpoint, if you're somebody who says that I only play WoW and the programs and stuff that I use is heavily single thread performance, I'd say go i5 or i7. Outside of that, and this has been the common like understanding, even like especially on like the LTT forums and stuff like that, and even the WoW forums, like people are pretty open to say, hey, look, like we're gonna recommend both builds, but like when you're looking at, you know, I'll hit as low as like 30 FPS on some fights, and there's not much I can do. What's the difference between 30 FPS and 33 FPS? Like, there's no difference. What's the difference between 60 and 65 or 66? There's virtually no difference. So why would you pay more and get 1/3 the threads, 4 threads versus 12? Or why would you pay, you know, $330 for 8 threads versus 16? It's just very hard to justify buying a chip like that when there are just so many benefits to the Ryzen. I mean, don't get me wrong, I had a lot of issues on my chips. You know, silicon lotteries up in the air. Mine didn't get a great chip. Memory was a pain in the butt. I had multiple boards and memory combinations that just didn't mesh too well. But that's being an early adopter of the chip. I mean, at this point, boards are shipping with newer BIOSes. They've really fixed a lot of the issues that we've been running into. So I'm pretty much at the point where I'm recommending Ryzen almost across the board, with the exception of, you know, if you're going ultra budget, G4560, fantastic chip. I've used it, love it. Definitely no issues with that. So as you guys see here, like I'm running like 40, 50 FPS, but I'm also streaming with OBS. I'm not using, you know, X264 encoding. I'm also running 1440p. I'm also running level 7 settings. Anything above 7, my FPS tanks a lot. So even here, I'm like getting down to like the 30s and stuff like that. So I know with if I do shadow play, it does a fair bit better. But I'm still kind of new to how shadow play works and getting multiple screens and things of that nature. So I'm curious about something. So like right now, for example, oh god, I feel like I should not be anywhere near that. I'm using about 60, anywhere from 50 to 70% of my CPU is how much I'm using right now. So, here's the problem with that, with me answering that question. I don't know. So this, I really haven't rated much this expansion. I've done this fight like once or twice. I'm probably going to die between you and me. And I only had the KB Lake chip for a very short period of time. I would go to say that my frame rates without streaming would be better on KB Lake, probably 10%. I think this is the scenario where you would see the most difference between a KB Lake chip and a Ryzen chip. But as soon as you throw streaming into the mix, not at all. You would get definitely much better frame rate streaming, because if I'm using 6 to 7 of my threads, what's going to happen with 5 or 4? It's going to bottleneck. I don't know if I should do this or not. Probably not a good idea. Yeah, unfortunately, that was I made a trip to Micro Center costing about $3,900, and it was during a period of time where the industry, I work in the mobile phone industry, and was very busy the first part of it. Do you happen to know what caused these dips to the 30s, perhaps in settings? No, it's not really a setting. No doubt that having this world open probably has a lot to do with it, but the kind of make it simple so this doesn't like really confuse anybody. MMOs have this big problem where basically the server, so everybody's inputting a lot of data to the server, and then the server has to export that data to all the clients, and then all the clients have to re-import their portion of the data as well. So so what ends up happening is everything has to be done in order. And it's very difficult with how, it's not really so much about internet. Internet doesn't have a much to do with it. But what's happening is all my actions are being recorded in order. It has to then upload those data sets to the server and then send it to everybody. And before all of your information can be uploaded back to the server, your side has to actually process everything first in order. So that creates a huge bottleneck, and that's why single thread performance is so important, because those data sets are pretty much nothing but single threaded segments. They're one thread of information that has to be processed by one thread in order, and that's why the big crunch actually helped a lot, because believe it or not, processing smaller numbers actually helped out performance a lot. I think that was like 2 expansions ago. So, and that's just the design of an MMO like this, and there's really no efficient way of fixing it. I mean, Blizzard could redesign their code somewhat, but I feel like all MMOs kind of have this issue. Oops, wrong button. There we go. There we go. So, yeah, I mean, I would go to say, like, yeah, if you turn all the settings down, anything that's any bit CPU intensive, when the frame rates go up, here, let's check. Let's just check for the heck of it. Hope I don't die in the process. So, this is level 1 settings, and my frame rates jumped like 20. So, I think we can all agree that that's like not a big jump. It really has to do... I feel like I should not be standing in this. That's right, I've never actually beaten this boss before. Actually, I think I have, actually, now I think about it. So, yeah, it really... Now, what ends up happening, though, is once you hit, like, above level 7 settings, that's where your GPU will start to get bottlenecked a little bit. Oh, what a... Holy crap. Oh, it's a shadow. Damn it. Okay. Okay, so these dips would happen. Yes. It would not happen as bad on a 7700K. What I mean by that is it's going to be almost no difference. If you were to do fraps on both, the 7700K would win. No doubt about that, would absolutely win. However, a minimum of 25 or 30 FPS versus a minimum of like 28 to 29 at 34, there's not a big difference. And Ryzen seems to do better with calculating data across the board. So what you'll notice is, this is another really hard to run rate too, by the way. What you'll notice is the 1%, 0.1% lows on Ryzen are a lot higher. So lowest frame rates are kind of useless because, you know, if all your frames are between 40 and 70 and you have one frame at 15, that doesn't tell the whole story. But if 1% of your frames fall in, like, it's not 15 but say 37, and the 0.1% of your frames lowest are like 35, that tells more of a story, because that's telling you that, you know, 1% of your lowest frames are here, and your 1% or 0.1% lowest are here. So the reason why it's important, I don't know if there's a way that I can test that without certain equipment. I'll have to look into it. But that tells you more of a fluid story, because just minimum of 15, maximum 115 tells you that one frame hit 15, one frame hit, 115. And the averages do tell a decent story. Don't get me wrong here. But I think 1% and 0.1% lows definitely tell far more than anything else. I have a feeling we're all going to die here. I will tell you this, when I ran the G20 or 4560 versus Ryzen, it did perform about 4% better on like flight paths and stuff like that with a GTX 1080, and that's Kaby Lake architecture, so that's, you know, definitely food for thought there. It did perform better, like I said, but only by a couple. I mean, one thing to consider is, you know, it's very hard to duplicate these tests, but one thing you could try to do, is you have a graphics card that, in the purpose of WoW, would perform within almost margin of error as my actual GPU. So if I swapped out your GPU and for, you know, instead of my 1080, we would see maybe a couple percentage difference. What you want to do is try to live stream like your YouTube channel or Twitch with OBS and see what your frame rates are and compare them to mine, and that'll give you an idea. Stuttering, a lot of issues with stuttering in WoW can actually be remedied by an SSD if you don't have one, because it's about loading information from the hard drive to the memory. So what I mean by that is, like, when you do like a quick turn and it kind of like that is obviously the case. I might be outputting in 30 FPS. No, I would go to doubt it, because they'd probably have to rewrite the entire code, and I don't see that happening. I really don't. I don't know, because an API, and let me actually get the definition of API so I don't do this incorrectly here. Application program. Okay, maybe that actually could work. I was thinking API was something a little bit different. I remember I can't pick my nose because I'm actually on camera. Shut up. Oh, this is why I need more than 16 gigabytes of memory. I'm using 8 right now.
Huh?
I'm using 8.
8
8 gigs, that's why I need your 32. Yes, I do. Excuse my being terribleness, by the way. Well, the one thing you also have to consider is, you know, there's been a running joke for a long time that, oh, you can run WoW on a potato. Now, that's never been further from the truth. Her GTX 1080 air cooled would hit mid-70s at 1440p. which is hotter than it runs like in GTA 5. So, but the thing is designed to still run on lower end hardware at the lowest settings, but it's also designed to really, put higher end hardware to the paces as well. So, the one thing they have to consider, there's a lot of people running on integrated graphics. They'll be running on a newer laptop or a newer desktop with Intel HD graphics. So, they have to be very careful with changing things around. Now, if the API would simply just rewrite how the game basically takes data sets in and out and makes it more efficient. I mean, logic would say that those systems that are running, Intel 7th Gen i5s with integrated graphics would do better. No doubt about that. But that is definitely a slippery slope. They have to just be very conscious of. Is that they have a lot of people running on hardware and they can't overhaul too many things because they don't want to alienate their base, because they would be better off from a business standpoint to basically say F the high enthusiasts, in our gripes, because I would go to say that there are far more people that would prefer to have a better experience on lower end hardware rather than us on the higher end hardware. So, what are you playing? Weirdo. Lit. Oh, got another viewer. I have 5. Greetings, Delta Destiny. So, we're the conversation right now is just talking about WoW's API to do with how it processes things coming in and out. So, everything has to be processed on the server side, sent to each individual clients, and then based off of the timestamps of those, has to be sent back to the server, processed in order. So incoming and outgoing has to be processed in order, and that's what causes to frame rates even on the higher settings. So we did talk about the Xbox One X a little bit. Well, I did. I don't know if nobody else really cared about it, but I live stream WoW in the meantime. I'm not I'm just doing LFR. I'm only like E45, so I haven't played a lot in this expansion. I'm trying to remember if Destiny's more, or if XP's more important than Mortal Strike or not. Can't remember. Yes, but if you still want, if you have, I mean, I'm always down for bringing up new topics and just talking about stuff. A lot of, what I like to do, I'm not going to say a lot of people do it, but what I like to do is, people have build questions, any questions about computer building, design, products out there. I love answering them. Okay. No. And here's the reason why I don't think it's a poor choice, because you're not oh, can I use that? It's not really a big upgrade. It's not like you're giving up much, and this is why Ryzen is so heavily recommended, because you give up 5 to 6% single thread performance, which is only exacerbated by games like World of Warcraft, and you get so much more. It's not like the FX series where you got 8 technical cores and you're giving up a ton of gaming performance. You're not really giving up much. You're giving up so little and getting so much. So no, it's not a bad idea to get an R7, because literally the other option in WoW is not going to give you, in my opinion, any better experience, any visibly better experience than what you're going to get with that setup. So although definitely turning my settings down to 7 at 1440p definitely made a difference here. You guys remember I was streaming last night hitting 20 FPS on a lot of fights. We'll see if that changes anything, but so let me see here. This is actually not my current build, but Okay, that's not technically here. Let me change this here. Gigabyte AB350M Gaming 3. So pretty much most of my build is in the description, but shut up. Were you talking to me just now? You? Oh, you're, okay. There's only 5 people watching. I need to remember to stream at night, because I stream during the day and everybody's like still doing life stuff. So. Well, you're going to add them to my live stream? Now, complete side note meme. I do have a 1700X and a... let me think for a second here. What is it? And a Asus X370 Pro board for sale for 400, which is going to be way better than a deal than what you'd find anywhere else. Well, 420 if you want to do shipping, but I bought that as the original day one, and I used it very sparingly. Then I bought a 1700 and a 1600 to test. Not too much longer down the road, because I'll still use my old system at the time, which was a 4th and a half gen Devil's Canyon i7, and I ended up liking to go with the 65 watt variants just due to heat output. So something a lot of people don't understand is pure power usage, rate and wattage, has a lot more to do with the heat in the room rather than actually how good cooling you have. But so it's very, very lightly used, never ever clocked. Couple hours on it, just some basic gaming and benchmarks from earlier videos. But yeah, it's selling it for a combo kit for 400, and the CPU and the motherboard both have a 2-year warranty with Micro Center, which is transferable. I did check with them. So just food for thought if you're in the United States and looking for something cheaper, because even like 1700 and a decent B350 board is going to be about the same price. So I still like the 1700, because the way I look at it is I have an H100i V2 is what I'm using for mine, and my fiance has a Kraken X61. I bought the bracket separate. I have a Hyper 212 for that other system, so it does a decent job, but I was hitting like upper 70s, lower 80s in some cases, but that was also when the motherboard couldn't read the temperature properly, because they had that big issue with temperature readings on Ryzen early on. How many of you guys are watching, by the way, because I'm up to 6. Oh, cool. I've been a pretty big fan of I've been a very big fan of using AIOs for some time now. Obviously, you do run into an issue of what happens if it leaks. That's definitely an issue that you can have. But I mean, granted, I got mine for a good deal. Not everybody would get the same deal that I got, but it's definitely been a pretty good investment. I feel like that was kind of obvious. Yeah, maximum temperature on this chip. Hold on a second. Tab out. I mean, it's just LFR, right? So I'll bring this up here. Oh god, oh god. Sorry about that. 52 is what I'm running. So they run about the same temperature swings as Intel, so they're pretty much good to about like 90. So if I'm running like low 60s, upper 50s, gaming is where I run. Oh, get out of my way here. Gaming's where I run like mid to low 50s. It's when I do like video editing that it gets a bit higher. Yeah, I think, I don't know if you're in the, really? What? I'm an idiot. Generally speaking, with the exception of like Bulldozer, which runs, Bulldozer and PowerDriver, which requires a different TDP, I generally like to keep my CPUs under. Um, yeah, I'm not like I think the offset thing's been fixed. That's why it's like 60 is probably what it's running at. Um, it's I like to keep it like CPU. I like to keep it under 80 for long-term use. GPU under 85 for like a computer that I'm selling to somebody. Personal, I'm a little bit pickier. I like to keep it under 80 and 75 respectively. So. Why am I pushed all the way over here?
I'm out of range.
I found where they went. Okay, let's collect my loot here. And I got nothing. Oh well, I got gold, so that was worth it. I really need to unlock my shadow artifact. That would drastically boost my damage. The only thing that sucks is that artifact is useless. Increases slam. I mean, oh, don't use slam. Yeah, and it's kind of funny because, like, World of Warcraft is still one of the most popular games in the world by far. I mean, I think the sub count's still, near 10 million, so. Yeah, I mean, obviously there's been a fair bit of flack about the LTT forums because they're like, they're riding AMD's dick, blah, 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 but, it has some merit. I mean, they made, in my opinion, one of the best chips we've seen in a long time. Something that's going to offer, very good game, very competitive game performance, and it hits all the other issues. With it's not a ton of power. The heat's fine. Multiple cores, good for people such as me and yourself. I'm a content creator. I mean, streaming as well. You'd be considered a content creator as well. And there's a fair bit of. There's a fair bit that goes into that. Now, what else is in your system, if you don't mind me asking?
The threads of fate that led you to this place. Your desperate attempt to stop the Legion. My people faced a similar dilemma. I peered into all possible futures in search of an answer. And we found only one. The Legion's victory is inevitable. Every time she shows
So, in the meantime, those of you, yeah, nobody really does. WoW is a very difficult game to benchmark, because let's think about it. You're doing a raid. You're going to have a different group makeup. Some spells are more demanding than others. Placement's different. Fights are longer. It's such a difficult game to benchmark. And think about it. Let's just say that, we found a way to do it well. What about queue times? That's why when I benchmark, I usually benchmark like Flight Path, because that's like the easiest I can do to benchmark. I really wish World of Warcraft or Blizzard would implement a benchmarking tool. I think that would go a long way.
Your timelines end here.
See, I was never a fanboy of any. Well, okay, that's a lie. I love EVGA products. You know, I look at, you know, a couple key things, such as, you know, a friend of mine who, you know, upgraded to, or where'd she go? There she is. You know, I've seen situations of EVGA just being straight up awesome. And when I bricked the motherboard at like 2 o'clock in the morning, I got live English technical support from California. And they helped me actually find the bias jumper because I couldn't find where it was. It's back in earlier days. So, you know, I love their products. Cooler Master, I've really started to grow to love some of their more recent products. But I'm more so brand loyalty, which is kind of expected. I mean, everybody, in my opinion, is going to have brand loyalty. You know, but I've never been like an NVIDIA or an AMD or an AMD and Intel. It was all about who had the better product for my needs and the needs of the customer. So, you know, I build and sell. I build, use, and sell, which has kind of been the big market. But I also do a lot of new stuff too. Just nothing super recent. You know, so whatever meets the needs of me and my customers, that's what I go with. Yeah, I mean, so things with like complement peripherals, it has a lot to do with the person. You know, if for example, you know, I use a cheap keyboard and mouse from Cooler Master, uses mechanical switches, which feel better than membrane, but they're not like my cherry browns. It's all about what you like. I mean, some people invest a lot of money in peripherals, some people don't. You know, some people are okay with the TN 1080p display, and some people, such as myself, want to go 1440p IPS 144 hertz, which is what I'm running. It is a FreeSync panel. And then, you know, my fiance, she has an ultra wide 1440p or 3440 by 1440 resolution display. I know I'm bright, thanks. What's up? Yes, I click my spells when I'm bored. Don't judge.
Time shifts again, and your doom draws near.
Am I even on the DPS meter? Oh, there I am. 16. What about the Xbox One X?
The threads of time answer to me.
I think she only resets like 3 times. And this should be time number 3. Wait, what did you say? I'm gonna check to see if my quest is done whenever I'm done here. I'm getting like 40 to 50 FPS, which honestly for rating isn't bad. Wow, I didn't get crap. 60. I don't really need that. Don't really need that.
In all the possible futures I scribe, I did not foresee one in which you were victorious. Wonder, will you defeat the Legion?
Yeah, I guess I asked me real early in the morning for you. Take care, man. It's good. It's definitely a pleasure to have you on the stream for like 3 days in a row now. I'm gonna stream like every night for a while, at least until we get back into GTA 5. Okay, leave instance group. Anything good going on Facebook? Nope. I don't know if this is done yet or not. I still have an hour. I don't have 100 of these? That sucks. I'm almost up to the next artifact. Okay, so did I do... I did that one, that one. I did not do this one yet. There we go. I'll do heroic, why not? Nobody I'm really interested in talking to in game anyway. I don't even know what guild I'm in. Hell spawns. Sure, we'll go with that. I'm really curious about this. Let me flip this over to my other screen here. So I'm going to move myself out of the way for a second. I find it, you know, move this over. I guess I, wait. Ah, here we go. So, actually, no, that's a little bit blurry. So this is the Xbox One X specs, for those who missed it earlier. So they're going to start off with 1 terabyte, supposedly using like flash storage on, I don't know. Talked about the power supply, so 240 watt internal power supply, so that's interesting. This is cool. So obviously 4K 60 hertz AMD FreeSync, so they can do it over HDMI now with HDMI 2.0. That's got H.265, H.264, so we'll be able to stream without any real hit on performance. It's going to have, you know, dual band AC wireless 5 and 2.4 gigahertz, up to gigabit support, USB 3. So I mean, specs are going to be good. I'm really curious. This is really fast GDDR5 memory. I mean, 326 gigabits per second. To give you an idea, so let me just zoom out. It doesn't help me. So looking at the old system, custom GPU at 833 megahertz, 12 compute cores, 1.3 teraflops of power. Memory was all DDR3, 68 gigabits per second, so 5 times the speed there. You know, almost 5 times the compute capability. So this is gonna be interesting. I mean, it's pretty much like I said, an RX 580 built in here, so that's gonna be interesting. All right. Move WoW back up. Nope. There we go. Okay, how long is the queue times? It's not horribly long. So I guess you guys aren't playing GTA 5 for a while? Why not? Reading for anybody that's in the sports. Fleury, I'm from Pittsburgh, and Fleury made a statement to, I guess, either a Post-Gazette or Pittsburgh, I'm not sure if it was referring to, or Penguins. And I was just reading about that. For those of you that aren't familiar or are familiar with hockey, they silently, our primary goaltender basically took a back seat to the new guy, because the new guy came in last year and we won a championship with him. I beat, he's not as good, but he's, you know, young, you know, he's 21 or 22. So this year, you know, the veteran goaltender Marc-Andre Fleury took a back seat to the new kid who developed and is doing well, obviously still not as good. And in February he waived his no trade clause, but that was hush hush. Nobody told anything about it because we have a new team coming into the league. The reason why that's important is because a new team gets to take, I believe, 2 players from each team. You can only protect so many people, and if you have a no trade clause, your team's forced to protect that player. And he waived it because he was going to go to the new team at the end of the year, and obviously they kept it quiet. So that was pretty interesting. So that's what I'm reading about right now. I don't know what this is. I feel like I should learn this if I can. Wait, what about giving you a quarter?
Oh, the game.
Oh, you were doing Best Buy trade-in. I thought you were doing GameStop. I don't think GameStop give you any money. So I should have. It says I have 3 people here. So obviously I think Thomas is still here. I guess Meme is still here. Curious if everybody else is still here. If you guys want to have some more conversation. Good friend of mine. Grew up together. Good kid. Well, good guy. I don't want to call him kid. He's my age. Right, I need to go to Dalaran. Well, I'm waiting for the queue to pop here.
I serve a greater power.
There we go. Hey babe, did you see this picture?
You're so tiny.
Apparently she doesn't care.
I do see how much.
Who is that?
We're already married.
Mm-hmm. Oh hey, that popped. Go ahead and undo something real quick. There we go. Really? Really? That Facebook update, really?
For me?
Yeah, you.
Or do you do it? Or you do this, right? Over here.
Here to see if there's anything going on in the, Oh, hey, someone responded to my thread.
Now can you see it? Here.
It's still going on.
Where did it go? Oh. You know what to do.
I was just now reading, and I'll bring this up for you guys, the link here. This is something that I wrote on the forums. Well, that's the second page. There's some trolling going on. There's a guy by the name of You over there, and doesn't have a very good reputation. He's more of a troll more than anything else. I mean, it's nice that he agreed with me and defended me whenever it got into a heated battle about Intel's semi-knee-jerk reaction with whatchamacallit. Oh, speaking of Intel's knee-jerk reaction, for anybody that's still not agreeing with us here, so here's something on the Linus Tech Tip forums here. It's a link.
Now they no longer exist.
And what's interesting about that is basically, I'm going to bring this up so I can actually read it. So you're telling me that 4, 6, 8, and 10 cores will be available in June. 12 cores going to be shipping in August. And these processors that do exist, but only exist on like the Xeon platform, are shipping in October, probably later, but that's what they have down. And you had this plan the entire time. Didn't. So for those of you that are not informed on where, basically the community called out Intel's bullshit is what happened. But long story short, Intel for this year said we're going to up our core count to 12 from 10. That's going to replace our $1,500 processor, and that's the way of the future. That's fine. One problem with that, AMD comes out and says that's cute. We're coming out with a 16-core, 32-thread processor, and it's probably going to be under $1,000 for at least the slower clocked one. And also, all of our chips have has 64 PCI Express lanes. They all support DDR4 up to certain memory speeds. They're going to have all these features, and by the way, our boards are probably not going to cost as much. And when that news basically came out, Intel basically said, well, we need to do something or we're going to lose huge market share in the high-end desktop. So they, so what happened was they have Xeons coming out for the high-end desktop platform, the workstations, and they're basically going to move those over to the consumer grade. So you're going to basically see these are basically going to be faster clock Xeons. But this is where more issues actually pop up. So first things first, you can have anywhere from 16 PCI Express lanes to 28 PCI Express lanes to 44. And actually the 8-core only, you have to go with an 8-core just to get 828. So that's the first problem. Second of all, the new 4-core and the 4-core hyper-threading version is going to be 16 PCI Express lanes, which they've always had. Is going to be 100 megahertz faster than the existing KB Lake processors. What would you do? It's going to carry 112 watt TDP versus 91, and you're going to have to buy a board that's going to start minimum $200, and that's a waste of a processor. That's KB Lake X. So that's kind of the first issue that I have with that. Then, no, RAID is not supported out of the box except possibly RAID 10, and let me see here. Nope. Okay. And if you want RAID 5 or RAID 1, you need to buy a RAID key, essentially. What are we? $19.99 here? Like, come on, guys. So not only is the platform just not universal across the board, so that's obviously the first issue. You depending on what CPU you have, it depends on what features you get, how many PCI Express lanes you have. Do you have dual channel or quad channel memory? It's a nightmare. You could literally technically buy two products and not have very good compatibility. And all their new features with RAID and Octane only work on Intel NVMe SSDs. And a lot of this is definitely regurgitating from Linus's video, and I have 2 videos up as well on this channel. But there's a lot of gripe to it. I mean, there's no doubt that an 18-core, 36-thread Intel CPU is going to perform better than a 16-core, 32-thread AMD Threadripper. Nobody's arguing that. The clock speeds are going to be a little bit higher, but the thing is Intel says up to 2 cores. So that's bullshit. If you're not going to put most of your cores at a higher clock speed, then I'm going to say your processor's 3.6 gigahertz. And AMD's coming out with processors going from 3.0 to 4, and their boost is across all their processors. So, yeah, you have a 3.4 gigahertz processor with 2 cores of turbo to 4.2 or 4.3. That's great, but that's only 2 cores. The rest are running at 3.4. So it's just they just fed us so much bullcrap and Computex, not us, but the consumer, and that is why people are upset about it. For those of you that missed out on that, because it literally, Intel's like, hey, AMD's not putting out anything good. We don't have to worry about them. And when they finally put out something good, they basically sat on technology improvements that they were still working on a lot slower due to having no competition. Who? Shut up. So, sorry for ranting that again, but it seems that all the big YouTubers, most of the large communities, with the exception of, sadly, the WoW forums, they seem to not share some of the same issues that a lot of us had. And I think a lot of it came down to the fact that people like myself and other people were saying that Intel CPUs are not as good, AMD's better, and they're better at the price point. They're not better for raw performance. But my argument's always been, if you're going to drop $500,000 on Lamborghini or a Ferrari or whatever the price range is, of course you're going to get something better than a base Corvette, most likely. But the thing is when most people's budgets are $50,000 for basically their premium product, not $500,000, then it does matter which one performs better for the dollar. It does. You know, having a $2,000 CPU that's more powerful than a $1,000 CPU, that's fine and dandy, but I almost want to go say nobody cares. Nobody honestly cares, because a vast majority of people that are going to be buying in that set are going to consider price and an option. Because while they might be able to afford $5 or $6 grand, if they can save $1,000 or allocate $1,000 towards something else that can give them far more benefit, I mean, getting 2 extra cores and 4 extra threads is great and all. You know, but what happens if, you know, you can invest that into a Quadro for video editing, or if you can invest that into a lot more memory, or a better server chassis, or redundant, you know, better redundant power supplies, or even software, you know, because software is not cheap for a lot of people running high-end desktops. So that $1,000 definitely will make a difference. I think there'll be very few people that will say that it's worth an extra $1,000 to get 4 more threads and 5 to 8% more single thread performance. That's how I feel. And I think if I would not be surprised if Intel drops their prices very quickly on their high-end desktops, because I just don't see, unless AMD flops, I don't see them doing that well. I get it that you know, AMD's went the easy road, which is, hey, we have 2 4-core chips on an Infinity Fabric, and it's working fine. So let's do 4 4-core chips with the Infinity Fabric and call it a day. And that's essentially what they did. Is instead of investing into a single die chip technology, they basically decided to have basically 2 quad-core hyper-threading chips on 1 chip. That's what Ryzen essentially is. So what's interesting about that is they tried a similar approach with Bulldozer and PileDriver, but they used like a mini-core cluster that relied heavily on cache rather than RAM speed, and that seemed to have a huge bottleneck in how the cores communicate with each other. So they kind of rehashed a similar idea, but they just execute a lot better, and their cores are real cores, they're not little mini cores. So, you know, if it worked on Ryzen, logic would say that, wow, it might require, you know, 2666 or 3000 megahertz memory to get the full benefit out of. You know, I can definitely see it being a good enough success where even if it's a 10 or 15% performance difference, you know, processor for processor, core for core, clock for clock, I still feel a vast majority of people would sacrifice that at that level, invest $1,000 somewhere else. So, and I don't know if my buddy just joined the stream or not. Joey. I gave him the YouTube channel. He might have looked it up. Speaking of which, I just looked at his brother's computer not too long ago. Apparently, if he is watching, I'm going to make a little joke about it. So, built him a computer about a year ago, or 2 years ago, actually. I think it's been about 2 years. And his graphics card basically died. It overheated and basically just killed the core. So it goes to his brother's computer, except that all three of all his whole family computers pretty much. And he steals his graphics card from him. To his brother's credit, he has a pretty good gaming laptop that I recommended. It has a GTX 960M 4 gig, and I want to say either like a 5th or 6th gen i7 with 12 gigs of RAM or 16 gigs of RAM. So it's it was definitely he plays on it fine. So. I'll whirlwind, why not? What, you don't want to play with other people? So, what else can I rant about? I don't know if my rants are interesting or not. I don't think there's a lot of things out there that really bother me anymore. Fanboyism doesn't bother me as long as it's not blind fanboyism. What I mean by that is I've owned mostly Intel processors, but I recommend based off of what's good and what works. So that's why I have trouble recommending Intel in a lot of areas, and you know they've definitely made a couple financial moves I don't agree with. I already did a video on cryptocurrency mining, so I presume you guys already know a fair bit about that. Supposedly, though, AMD and NVIDIA are going to be making some dedicated mining systems. I hope it's a success because, you know, granted, I made some money on my RX 580. Gamers are hurting from that. That's a fantastic card for its price, and unfortunately, a lot of people are stuck with only getting a GTX 1060. Mind you, the 1060 is a good card. I don't recommend it over the RX 580 unless you have G-Sync, or if there's features like Shadow Play or things of that nature that you want. I mean, they're both close. I still feel like it's one of those things where if you get a GTX 1060 over an RX 580, I'm not going to say you're an idiot. I'm going to say I feel like, you know, you would have gotten a little bit more mileage out of this chip, but honestly, it's like, you know, it's almost like buying Intel over Ryzen if the core count wasn't different. They both perform very similar, and there's different feature sets, but you know, there's a big difference in multi-thread performance. So that's that's kind of my thing. But right now, I'm pretty much recommending the 1060 across the board because of the price. I mean, if you're gonna spend $350 on a graphics card, get a 1070, then that's pretty much what I tell people. So, so yeah, that's going on. RGB's in, obviously. You know, a couple of you guys have been asking. If you're looking to buy good RGB fans that aren't super expensive, notice I said super expensive, the SP120 from Corsair is definitely a good buy. They run anywhere from $12 to $15 a fan. They're really good static pressure, so it's good for places where you have vent filters. If you're running AIOs, definitely good there. I don't really recommend high airflow fans like the AF series, just because you get a little bit more airflow through unobstructed areas, but if there's any obstructions, you get a lot less airflow. So, yeah, I did not know that. I will definitely keep an eye on that. But yeah, high-end card. Well, I call them upper mid-range. Maybe not quite high-end. That's just a personal opinion. But I mean, technically, you could pretty much go 144 Hz, 1080p, or even budget 4K with a RX 580 or a GTX 1060. But I think what's also causing that is, you know, a lot of people are flocking to the 1060 because you can't get the RX 580. So that's what happens is when there's limited supply and there's a high demand for, just like, you know, that's what happened with the RX 580, is there was a really high demand for it, and unfortunately AMD ran out. So that, you know, they're having trouble keeping up. So if I remember correctly, you're from the WoW forums, if I'm correct, right? Sorry, I was typing something. Just waiting for a response here. See if I can break 300. Might be able to. Go back too far. What is your WoW name? Just because I know what it is as soon as you tell me. I feel like you're the rogue that starts with an AQ, but I could very well be wrong. Or you're the monk that starts with a C. One of those two rings a bell. Try to remember. I know it's one of those two. I feel like it's one of those two. Yes, the rogue. So I was right. No, it's fine. I've never met Genesec, believe it or not. He lives not too far from me, believe it or not. I want to say he's North Pittsburgh. if I remember from our previous conversations, I'm Eastern Pittsburgh. Well, I'm a lot further out than I used to be, but...
Told you to leave me alone.
Anything good? Nope. Not for me.
Pity you have come this far only to die at the hands
What system are you running on now? For some reason, I have no idea what system you're on. I haven't kept tabs of that.
This realm, Nightmare Lord. Bold words for a prison. Even an echo of my power was enough to overwhelm you.
Still trying to sell my Ryzen 7 1700 board and CPU. I should also, well, I don't know if I really want to actually use that and sell my Ryzen 5. I don't know. I gotta get some stuff paid down so I can buy more crap to put on YouTube. I really want to buy Vega as soon as I can, just to review it and see if it's worth keeping over like a 1080. I feel like this is not the way we're supposed to go. And Bladestorm. This is an interesting topic I'll bring up here. Power supplies. So, power supplies have made up a lot of ground over, I'd say, the last like year and a half, maybe two. There's a lot of really good budget power supplies. Seasonic, Seasonic with their silencer, or the S2 and the M2, or M12 rather. They're definitely really good budget power supplies. I'm using an M12 myself, 520 watt. There's those are usually my go-to. EVGA's definitely done a fair bit better on their lower end products. The PQ series looks to be pretty solid. I'd still avoid the W series, the Light series. But they even have, I've even seen a couple of their power supplies as cheap as like $22, $23. And I'll be honest, if I was on extreme budget, I would buy an 80 plus certified 450 watt power supply from EVGA. Granted, you know, it's by no means the best power supply by any stretch, but I feel like you know, it'd still be a very good value buy in my opinion. A recent one had a VRM. Well, I presume VRM on the board on that end. And what desktop did you sell? Going on to what I was saying earlier, there's a lot of good power supplies between like 60 and 90 bucks. You're finding more semi and fully modular. You're finding, you know, just better quality components altogether. 80 plus silver hasn't existed. I haven't seen that in forever. A lot of 80 plus gold. You know, still EVGA is still kind of you know, taking up that market. Their G2, G3, GS series are still, you know, really high 90s, low hundreds in some cases. Some kinds of 80 I've seen. But I definitely feel like they've made a lot of good advances in power supplies, and there's a lot of good options. A lot of companies like Corsair revisit older series like the CXM series used to be kind of garbage, and now it's actually been revamped. The one with the gray letter is what you're looking for. And their CS series is pretty good too, especially for the more budget-oriented users. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. Come on. Oh, let me loot this so they don't complain. Okay.
I need to get closer.
Run into my range. What CPU did you buy over that? You know what's funny? I have a GTX 770. I don't have it here. Actually, a friend of mine's borrowed that computer. That card ain't worth dick. I can buy one for like I had a friend of mine. He sold his for like $70 used, and that's like kind of like the going rate, which is kind of interesting. And that actually sparks another topic while you get this message answering my question. If you want, you don't have to. While CPUs haven't moved much in the last, honestly, 11 or since 2011, there's been no real like serious year-over-year gains. GPUs on the other hand have moved a lot. So to give you an idea, I did a video of the RX 580 versus GTX 770, and I was posting anywhere from a 1080p like a 50 to 80% increase, and I went from a top tier card in 2013 it cost me $400 to a mid tier card that cost me $230 3.5 years later, and the performance difference is huge. Comparing it to like my 1080, even a much bigger performance increase over that. So, but if you look at like Sandy Bridge at 4.5 gigahertz versus Kaby Lake at 4.5 gigahertz, not a huge difference. We're probably talking 20% maybe in gaming, and that's probably pushing it, to be 100% honest.
What is this? Don't make me laugh. You will waste away slowly.
I probably shouldn't have done that again. Well. Try and get some extra rage real quick, why not? Why am I doing like no damage? I've never really been a big fan of delitting. I mean, I know what it can't do for you, but what's interesting is I had a rant on Threadripper earlier from my videos and stuff, and Threadripper's supposed to be soldered, and I find it hilarious that Intel doesn't want to do it for whatever reasons, and AMD's like, well, since everybody and their mother wants a soldered chip and Intel won't do it, let's just be dicks and do it to piss everybody off. And that's kind of what they pretty much did. And that's kind of why I've always been a fan of, that's always been why I've wanted to like AMD. It's hard to like a company when they're all putting out a good product. They definitely have done good on GPUs over time, but CPU is definitely a different story. But because they'll listen to enthusiasts, they'll do things against the curve, they'll do a lot of that stuff. So that's kind of why I've always either wanted to or have liked, the underdog per se. Because they in my opinion, they cater to enthusiasts a little bit more than Intel. And NVIDIA, I would go to say, caters very well. They don't have that swag about them that they've been so good for so long that they can do what they want, where you kind of get that vibe from the whole issue with Intel recently. But NVIDIA's been very competitive because AMD's been competitive, and they're pushing for innovation. They're not just doing power reduction, they're doing, what's really nice is the GTX 770 actually puts out more heat in the room than my 80 or 1080. Just because they've done a lot with power delivery, and even though the cooling arguably isn't any better than her 1080 versus that 770, a triple win first versus an EVGA 2 fan, I would go say the cooling's a little bit better, but just the way the power's delivered, it's cleaner. What I mean by cleaner is there's less power lost, from the 12 volt rail from the power supply. So it's literally not just shooting heat out or shooting lost power out. It's more efficient actually utilizing it properly. I know I'm not using the right terminology for it, so I definitely apologize there, but that's generally the idea. Yeah, you can find 10 or 970s for like real low hundreds, and so you're definitely right. A 1050 Ti is a little more powerful than a 770. I ran into that situation recently. Why did you delay your 1700? I mean, literally, you're running. Your issue you're going to run into is voltage more than anything else. You're not going to have necessarily a thermal limit, in my opinion. Well, you will, because you'll want to run like 1.5 or 1.6 volts. They get more CPU power, but that's not good for long term, man. Hey, also I have a 1700X if you want to buy it. If you don't need the board, 300 plus shipping's like $10. If you do need a board, I have a board for 100. It's the ASRock board or Asus board that I hate so much. I know. I shouldn't be using my YouTube channel to sell shit. I just need to get this stuff sold. You know, it's amazing. When I was doing this raid earlier, I was struggling to maintain 30 FPS, and now that I turned the settings down from 8 to 7, it's really giving me like a 20% boost. Oh, okay.
I let you strike first, and that's the best you can
So wait, you sold your 1700 system, and then you delayed your 4770K. Why? I'm curious. Okay, so this is the test. Can I consistently stay above 25? That's usually where it falls off here. I'm just testing different angles while I'm doing this. I feel like the performance on my 4790K when I had it was like single threader wasn't on par with Ryzen. Maybe Ryzen was a little bit ahead. It was almost like Broadwell level. Of course, Broadwell never really came to the desktop side. You're probably an early adopter. I mean, I was an early adopter too. Well, my 1700X is from Refill. I mean, I got it from Micro Center, so if you live near a Micro Center, I mean, mine has a 2-year transferable warranty. I know. I should stop pouring out parts I have to sell. I feel like should I clip Colossus Smash? I feel like I should. Also, I feel like I shouldn't too, because I'd be losing the buff and the haste duration. I'm actually really impressed with this performance. I mean, I'm usually streaming this like below 30 FPS. I've been consistently like upper 30s, lower 40s most of the fight. And in my opinion, this is pretty well playable. If I'm not sitting in the 20s the whole time, I would consider that playable. Oh, there I got. Now I got into the 20s. Holy crap! That's a lot of spells going on. Apparently we have ads of some sort. Okay, going back and reading your earlier post, that now everything makes sense. Oh, FPS actually went up out here. That's a shocker. Ah, cool. Well, that's good. What's what kind of cost do you have on those, by the way? Just out of pure curiosity. I would presume there can't be a huge markup on those. I have, my micro center's pretty close, but we pretty much, me and my fiance decided I'm pretty much banned from going there. Right, babe? Right, babe? Babe, I'm banned from going to micro center. Oh, that place is so glorious to go to. For anybody who hasn't been to a micro center, A, if you're a computer enthusiast, don't do it because you'll mortgage your house. Where's he at? There he is. Thanks. Sweet, I could definitely use that. And there's no fries out here, unfortunately. Although I do have some steak fries in the fridge, though. Steak fries.
Are you hungry?
Not really. Put a straw poll up. Panda Express or real or like sit down Chinese food. Yes, I did just totally click my spells. Where are my buddies watching? Can't wait to actually get to the point where I'm actually doing damage. So I didn't read your post. I think you did post on it, but that big argument that involved me, Shoddy, the monk was there, Genesect was there. I think Stoneblading, CAG also were there too. That got a little out of hand real quick. I got a tad defensive. I wasn't trying to be a total douche, but I felt that people were kind of fanboying a little hard rather than looking at the logistics. But I felt that that some of the arguments were misunderstood, if that makes any sense. That people weren't looking at some of the opinions that some of us had the way we were intending to deliver them. Am I standing in something? I feel like I'm standing in something I shouldn't. I'm like really low on health. That looks like something I shouldn't stand in. So is that. Pretty sure I can get 144 FPS. That'd be nice. Is there a way for anybody that actually does stream YouTube? Is there a way to see the actual people that are watching? Like, let's see here. Participants. Nope. Interesting. And that's bad. Definitely shouldn't stand there. Oh, that's just a live chat. Okay. Let me see. No. In case you need to see that. So anybody that's watching my rotation, don't laugh. I'm not half paying attention so far. What's Glue doing? Where's he at? No, it was when Shoddy posted about Intel's new CPUs coming, and he basically accused me and a bunch of people saying we need to get off Linus's dick, blah blah blah. And don't get me wrong, I only made that actual video. I was wanting to make it, but I felt that I didn't have a lot of the information. I just had my feelings about it, and I felt that it wasn't a video that should be out. And then when Linus did it, and then Jay did it, and then Paul and Kyle talked about it, I'm like, well, actually after Linus did it, Linus and Jay, I felt like, okay, so I'm not the only person that has opinions. Let me get some more information, and then I did the video. That's the one I was referring to. What went wrong there is I think that Shoddy and some of the other people were basically thinking that we were saying that, you know, Threadripper's better, don't buy Intel, blah, blah, blah. And I think that's where that went south real quick. In fact, that we were just talking about the better buy for the dollar, and that, you know, when you look at everything that was thrown out there on top of, you know, people like myself that do have friends that do work for, you know, companies that did feed me a little bit of information, that the information out there is pretty accurate, that Intel's plans and roadmap changed a lot right before Computex. Their general roadmap was not to bring Xeons to high-end desktop. They didn't. That wasn't their plan. But they were in a situation where they were potentially going to be hit on that market, so they had to keep their crown. So that's what I find. Intel version of the Paladin guy. That's funny. What I find interesting is when a friend of mine who works for ASRock says, "Yeah, our 299 boards are spec'd and designed for 12 cores coming out later on down the road." This is the first we're hearing about anything more than that. That was about a week or so before Computex. Now, I didn't actually talk to them until after Computex, but that was kind of interesting how that unfolded. So that's been what the community response has been, is that, you know, the way Intel played off their 299 high-end desktop chips was that they did not really have a plan for it, that they felt that they were going to lose the crown, so they kind of just whipped something together. And honestly, even if that wasn't what Intel really did, boy, it sure as hell felt like it. I mean, that is what they did. I fully believe it was, but that's kind of where that went. So, but if you weren't here with my earlier rants, I mean, the problem is I think he was saying that I was claiming that a 16-core Threadripper is going to be better than a 18-core Intel chip, and that's clearly not the case. I would actually expect Intel would have a better per core performance on their chips. But stuff like all the feature support issues, the fact that, you know, PCI Express lane, I mean, that whole debacle is bullshit. Having to have physical RAID keys is bullshit. Having their Kaby Lake X makes zero sense. Why would you have a 4 and 6 core higher TDP processor on a really expensive platform? That makes next to no sense. You know, that just seems like a waste of time and money, but there's just so much compatibility between all different chips. And I linked earlier here about, you know, Intel is shipping their, their 4, 6, 8, and 10 cores later on next month. Their 12 cores, which they were planning to release, don't get me wrong, I fully expect them to go 12 core. And like I said, their boards are spec to go 12 core. But they were releasing those later on in like quarter 3. And then, like, sometime in quarter 4, they're going to have these chips they were talking about. So, the whole thing with, like, Turbo Boost, like, you have, 2 cores that hit a certain speed, like, you can't really tout that. That's bullcrap. If you can't hit that on most of your cores, then that if you have a 3.4 gigahertz processor with the max turbo boost of 2 cores at 4.2, you have a 3.4 gigahertz processor. That's what you have. I mean, I get it that single core performance is important, but I don't like it. I didn't like it. Did I really just come back to die? Yep, I did. So I'm going to release and not come back. Well, I won't get within range of aggro. So, but I'm really interested. I really want to see how close AMD gets on a high-end desktop, and if they're 10 or 15% behind Intel at half the price, I'm curious what that will do. I really am. I think, as I alluded to, I don't know if you're listening during this point, I get it that people that are spending $5,000 or $6,000 may not care about that extra $1,000, but I would disagree. That extra $1,000 may be used towards other hardware or software. And I think that's something that a lot of people aren't understanding, is if you're going to say, well, I'll take a 10% performance decrease if I can save my boss $1,000 because now we can use that money we saved on the software we were going to buy, or more software. I can deliver a better package for the same price, and that's kind of where I see a lot of this making more sense. Oh, well, no, I don't disagree. I think that Intel's 16-core 32-thread, which was their highest end, is going to be better than AMD's. I don't have a shadow of a doubt that's going to be the case. But that chip's also going to be like $1,600 versus AMD should be starting between $800 and $900. So that's kind of where that comes in effect. Is I made the example, if you're buying a luxury car or luxury sports car, most people's budget realistically is $50,000 is reasonable. Of course, you can buy a Ferrari and Lambo for a couple $100,000 and get a better product. Well, I wouldn't say better product. Let's just say it is. That's kind of what it's all about. Price to performance is, I think, really, really something that he may have overlooked on that. But I don't think that's what his issue was with me. I think he thought that I was saying that Threadripper will be better, which I don't think it will. I don't think it'll be more powerful. It'll be close, but I don't think it'll be more powerful, and that's fine. That's always been AMD's thing anyhow, is, we're a little bit behind Intel, we're enthusiasts, and we're better priced. And let's be honest, in the United States that works. It's almost like if Sprint was really within 1% of Verizon's reliability, which even if they were, that's still bad. But if they're within 1% of our network, of course saving money would make sense, but they're not. They deliver a significantly worse product than Intel, or than Verizon and even AT&T. So that's the problem. But it's almost like T-Mobile. The only problem with T-Mobile is they don't have travel on. So for those of you that don't know, higher frequency does not travel as well. It doesn't penetrate as well either. So T-Mobile's biggest problem that they have is they don't have good distance. Actually, at least probably more towers than anybody else, but their signal and their network strength doesn't have the travel that like AT&T and Verizon does. They still try to compete with Verizon. They really can't until they roll out their 650 megahertz spectrum, which should make up a lot of ground for them. And I think at that point, they would really be what I would call a serious contender with the big two. Sprint's just bleeding money left and right, so they're, in my opinion, a waste of time when you consider them. So, obviously, I pay for a premium product. I get a really good pricing on Verizon, don't get me wrong, but I have the unlimited plan. But I know what I got, and I know what else is available, and in this case, it's almost like Bulldozer versus i5. You can go cheap, but you give up a lot. So I'd rather go with the i7 personally in that regard. That and T-Mobile CEO is a toll too. I don't like him. But that's just more of a personal opinion. I should probably be over here. Jesus, people doing over 1 million DPS. It's ridiculous. Okay, I'm gonna try not to die, but read your response at the same time. I mean, don't get me wrong, and again, I'm somebody who, I don't really hold a lot of fanboy loyalties. AMD on the graphics side really struggled with drivers for some time, and it was for a while. It caused a lot of problems. When they finally got their never settle drivers and stuff, they caught up. But, you know, they definitely did have, for the longest time, garbage drivers. I feel like that hasn't been an issue in recent history. I could very well be wrong about that. Again, I've only been back in the PC building world for about half a year now. But, yeah, I mean, I think he really maybe misunderstood what the point was. And I think that he felt that I was just on, like, you know, Linus's dick too hard. And it really wasn't my intention. But I guess the problem is I wouldn't have done the video had he not. So.
Nature nourishes those who truly appreciate it. Light falls upon you.
I feel like in this regard, Whirlwind would be a DPS increase. I have always tried to keep it as neutral as possible because, you know, I try to help a lot of people, and you know, even on this stream the last couple days I've helped a half a dozen people. I mean, yeah, I think you're right, but a lot of other people were, it wasn't just him though, a lot of people were on Intel Stick too, and I try to keep my fanboyism out of it. I mean, that's kind of the big problem is, like, we all, like, I love EVGA products. I swear by EVGA products. You know, even when they had issues with their VRMs, I felt that the way they handled it was some of the best ways I've seen in a long time. They're expediting RMAs, they were doing all this stuff. And it's hard. I mean, a lot of people have had great experience with EVGA, so, you know, but I try to keep it as low-key as I can. And, you know, it's... I guess the difference is, you know, those guys, I mean, they're good people. I still have a lot of respect for him and Kang and you, a guy named you and you. You know, I still respect those guys because in the end of the day, I feel like, you know, there's a lot of pretty good advice going around across the board and that people are getting helped. And when bad information's recommended, that usually it's caught. So, you know, ooh, wait, what is this? Let me target this guy here. Hold on a second. Yeah, pretty sure he needs that more than me. They got new shoulders, though. Hold on, so this is done. 1 minute, sweet. Go ahead and learn my new trait real quick. I've always been under the impression of get what's good. Don't sell yourself short. Really wish I could see everybody that. Keep showing my bit rate's too high. Oh well. I'll live. Jesus, that's a lot of artifact power. Got a dollar on real quick while that finishes up. Hoping to get my shadow artifact finally. I'm gonna check my phone. I think I work at 11 tomorrow, I want to say. Oh, they do that again. And of course, my mission completes as I do that. Talk to my people. More so myself, but people. I think there's 6 or 7 people watching. 6. Now, I wouldn't be against, what was it? Getting some other people on the live stream and just talking about some stuff if they have opinions. FX 8300, 8350. I mean, it's not as bad as like the 8150, but still not good. I've messed with a couple of those. Ugh. Okay, he has a quest.
Well met, Chaplain. Without you,
Well,
I need to get closer.
yeah, I don't like to call anything somebody has garbage, but that's... I mean, don't get me wrong. You could have picked up that CPU like a year and a half ago for like $90 or $100, and it definitely had its place. If you're looking for a real budget video editing processor, I would go to say that it wasn't a bad buy, but for pure gaming, I mean, even a dual-core hyper-threading from Intel was better. It really was. What is this chromie thing? Is it sad I don't know what Mythic is? Well, I know what it is, but don't actually know it. Let's see what LTT has going on over here while I go finish this mission. I hope I can get my shadow artifact after this. Okay, no I didn't. That's annoying. I'll have to look this up. Yeah, I kind of feel like it's probably not a bad best practice. Okay, so I did all of these. Is there anything else I need to do? So a little bit of help if you guys don't mind. I am trying to get my shadow artifact unlocked, and I have no idea how to do it. Maybe this guy has a quest for me.
What victories do you bring me?
Maybe? I don't know.
May your battles
Sure.
be glorious. Heed Odin's call!
I'm following a warrior campaign, so too bad I don't need these. I do need 1,500 resources though badly.
Death cannot stop me.
Hopefully it should be the last part of this.
The temple is completely overrun. Let us crush these demons.
Wish I could do this YouTube gig full time. I don't think I have enough personality or vision though. I just like having fun and talking to people and helping people. And that's kind of the catch-22 of it as well. Yeah, I think this is the last part. I've been looking up on it. Definitely appreciate the help. If I continue to have issues, I'll definitely be more than happy to take any advice if I'm wrong. So I'm kind of at a catch-22 because I would love to be more popular and help more people. But I feel like, you know, if I did more, I would be able to help less. And that's not exactly what I'm looking to do either. Why is my health so low? That's right, I have this. That'll work. I just love the fact nobody really cares that I suck. That I'm like so sucking this expansion. Shut up. Nobody asked you, woman. Probably getting stared at right now. There's just running. Yeah, no, go catch it right. Oh, hey, nice.
I don't have a tower.
Out with it already.
I'm ready for whatever comes.
Why are they not tagging the shit for me? I feel like I should be getting a little more help than this. I just realized I'm an old ore. It's pretty sad.
Who is that fighting so fiercely ahead?
It appears to
You are
be
fierce for one so small. What happened here?
fight first, talk later.
It's been a long night. Damn it, Knive aggro. Shit. Let's get out of that way. Let's get out of that way too. I feel like I should kite this guy. Can I get some health possibly?
It's too far away.
I'm still pretty low. Alright, if you're gonna heal me, that's fine. Let's not get stupid and die from it though. You know where, you know, I was talking about innovations over the last couple of years. I have to give, ooh. I died. Not to start over again. Ugh. Cases have gone quite far. So back when I first started building, the half 932 was my first like big boy case I had. I had a Roswell Ranger prior to that, and I find it incredibly interesting how far that has advanced. So RGB, better airflow, better designs, no optical drives. You know, a lot has changed in that regard.
Who is that fighting so fiercely ahead? You are fierce.
So I find that actually quite interesting. I feel like there's been a lot there that has improved. Aesthetics has been extremely important to case manufacturers. Tempered glass side panels has been extremely important. I don't think I can, say enough some of the changes that have happened just in that category alone. And I go back to before, it was all about big fans and pushing a lot of air. Now it's all about, filters and having static pressure fans. And fans is an area that's moved a lot as well in the last bit, where they've realized that static pressure is far more important than just a ton of airflow. A ton of airflow won't really get the job done per se. Damn it. Why do I have to aggro shit? I got something on eye here. Well, that's why I grabbed the tissue. Smart shit. Yeah. I should not have my finger in my eye. You see, RAM really hasn't changed. Latency went up, speed went up as well, which kind of makes it kind of more or less the same. Motherboard features have changed a lot. I won't go to say that. Okay, we'll follow this guy. Ah, there we go. Figured that one out. So in the realm of motherboarding features, you have a lot more crossfire support since there's no premium to pay for that. Of course, that's something that hasn't changed. Motherboard manufacturers have to get the licensing for SLI still. You think that would be over with, but hey, I guess the licensing agreement cash cow is what it is. So, but stuff like more fan headers, having efficient fan header, proficient amount of fan headers on high end has become pretty popular. Even my board, I think, has enough fan headers to cover, and mine's like an $80 board. M.2, this is actually strange. I found M.2 support on like $60 bargain boards for like my G4560 build, which I actually found quite interesting.
What do you need? Spit it out. I'm out of range.
Make sure you guys didn't say anything. Make sure I stay scrolled down. So I've missed a couple messages on accident. Okay. Charging. I think this is the final part, I'm hoping. Seems like it would be. I'm afraid to ask how many parts this thing is. This quest. So, question for you. You said you returned your 1700, so are you just sitting on the cash and waiting for something else? Or did you have a plan, or what were you thinking about doing next?
There's rooms behind that door. We need to get it open. Grab a chain and help me. All together now. Pull!
I swear like I'm doing all the pulling here.
Into it!
We get through this.
Sweet.
I'm out of range.
Well, I'm gonna say that usually my stream starts to drop off at this point, so I might actually just call the stream, call it a night for now. Conversation's gone out, which is fine, but I feel like I don't keep everybody on here too long. Oh god, really? No help, really? Oh my god, you gotta be kidding me. That is annoying. No heals at all. That's gonna be annoying. Stage 4 of 8? Oh, it's long. Alright, well, I'm going to call it a night for the stream. I'm still going to be on for a little bit, though. Anybody that's watching this later on, you're more than welcome to add me, Sneeb, #8 1846, or you're more than welcome to email me at pcbudgetsolutions@outlook.com. Always more than happy to help out if I can. I'm not the only person that knows everything, by no means. The WoW forums is usually not a bad place to be at for hardware advice. Linus Tech Tips is pretty solid too, but there definitely is some bias over there. So anyway guys, this is Steve from PC Budget Solutions, and I'll see you guys later on down the road.